Are you feeling stuck in life? Because if so, I definitely know how that feels. I felt stuck so many times before. And the truth is, when I got out of it, I didn't really stop and think how or why I had actually managed to get out of that feeling, because it could really be bad. Like sometimes things are not going your way, maybe in romantic relationships or at work, and life just feels like you're stuck, like it sucks, right? Like you're not going anywhere. You start beating yourself up for being in that position that you're in right now. Maybe you didn't make the best decisions previously. Whatever the case, and whichever way you actually came here, I'm hopefully gonna give you a few pointers on why exactly you're feeling that way and how exactly you can get yourself out of that feeling. Because let's face it, sometimes it's not what you have, is how you feel inside that really matters and changes the quality of our lives. All right, so just before we begin, remember to smash the like button below because it helps the algorithm and allows other people just like you to watch this type of content, which is free. All right, so I don't know if you've heard this before, but actually one of the biggest needs that we humans have is to have a feeling of like growth, a feeling of progression. Maybe that's why we like good stories, right? Like we go to the movies, we see something, we see a star, we see a problem that happens to the characters that we are introduced to, and we see how the story progresses along, and hopefully it has a good ending where they manage to resolve the problem and things are better, and they manage to develop some skills, maybe deepen a friendship or a bond or a relationship, or they manage to save the world, whatever the case, right? There are so many examples. At the end of the day, what these stories and what good stories and what the movies, what all of these things, when we go and watch them and when we feel really good about them, what they do really is they give us a feeling of progression, right? You were at point A and you move to point B, and hopefully at point B you are actually more skilled, more ascended, you have better relationships, you have improved an aspect of your life, and it feels satisfactory. It feels you're getting fulfillment and satisfaction from it. The only problem from watching it in movies and other places is that sometimes we use it as escapism, because we don't get that feeling from our own lives. And when we don't get it from our own lives, what we do is we try and get it from other sources. Sometimes we try to feel good just by overeating. That's something that I've done a lot throughout my entire life, and I struggle with it at times. Sometimes we have issues with it, and maybe some people get into alcoholism, maybe drug use, just because you want to escape that feeling of being stuck. But really what you're missing is not using that escape as a momentary or as a temporary solution that is not really solving the issue at hand. And that issue is simply that you're not feeling that growth, that progression in your life currently. So what does that mean? It means that when you look at your life, and your life, let's break our lives down into, we're more than this, but let's be simplistic. Your life is composed mostly of your work life, right? What you do for work. Like, do you feel like you're getting more skill, you're getting more recognized, you're getting more responsibility at work, you're getting paid more? Like, there are many different metrics that we could use to see for you yourself to feel like maybe you're advancing, right? Your work life, whether that's again like actual work, or studies like getting certifications. Sometimes a lot of people who you see with a lot of degrees and stuff like that is because they get that feeling of progression from actually acquiring more knowledge and advancing not only their knowledge base, but also how they're recognized and defined in the eyes of others as well, their peers, because they actually managed to, let's say, get beyond, get more advanced, be more knowledgeable, and the paper that they get is kind of like a recognition from that. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's kind of like trying to fill an insecurity that they have, right? And I include myself in that because I myself have had that feeling as well in the past a lot, like, oh, if I get this degree, this certification, like, right? But really all you're trying to do is fill that void of feeling stuck. And sometimes that can be, again, like I mentioned, very good, sometimes not necessarily. So your work life, let's get back on track. Your life is composed of your work life, it's composed of your relationships. And your relationships can be both social, as in with peers, with your family, but also romantic. And this is very important. Like, do you feel like you're progressing in that area? Or do you feel like you're just stuck? Like you're not finding anyone that you want to be with? Do you feel like maybe you're being rejected or not being taken in consideration? Like, or maybe you had a very hard breakup very recently and that has left you devastated and making you feel like you can't move forward, right? So you have those two. You have your financial life. Yes, you have work life, but work life is with regards to what you're doing to be productive, like your activities day to day, versus how are you with regards to your bank account? Because if you are at a point in which you have to look for money to eat every single day and you just feel the pressure, then that's going to be very difficult to handle. And also, how are you when it comes to health, right? When it comes to your actual health, because you could have great relationships, you could have a great work life, you could have a lot of money in the bank, but if you're dying because your body just can't take it anymore, you have an illness that's terminal or something like that, then it's going to be a very different position, right? Especially when you first hear about it. You're going to be very shocked, you're going to have to go through the whole acceptance process. If that's you, I'm truly sorry. But for most people out there who are watching this who are not in that position, your health is very important. So let's go at it again. Your whole life is your health, your work life, your romantic and relationships with like friends, family kind of life, and also your bank account, like financially, like can you actually secure the resources you need to survive and have a modest life, right? Not to say like to be super mega rich. If that's you, that's great. I encourage it. I want to be rich too. So those are four very simplistic ways of putting it. We're not talking here even about spirituality and that stuff, which is important as well, having some kind of faith, not necessarily in a religion. But let's say that this is going to be the spiritual aspect to it. That feeling that you need, that you're not having right now, of growth, that you need to have in order to stop feeling stuck. So what you're going to do is you have to identify an area, any of those four that we mentioned, that you can actually start improving, that you can actually start moving in a more positive way, more constructively, that you can actually start moving forward. Because if you do that, then that is going to start giving you a little bit of momentum, and you're going to feel like, oh, momentum. Like you don't feel it right now. You don't feel it. I know you don't feel it because I've been there. I've been in that dump, and whenever someone tells you something, it's like, oh yeah, they all tell me that shit, but I just feel like crap. No, you don't have to do like some mega change, like lose 20, 40 pounds or 100 pounds or whatever if your health is the issue and you feel overweight or have some image issues, right, with your body. You don't need to make a big shift. You just need to take a small step. That's gonna lead to another very small step. And each small step kind of like gives you a little bit of, like that, like, like that wasn't so bad. Like, I feel like I can do it again tomorrow. And you go in and you do it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then, because a small commitment psychologically leads to a bigger commitment. That's called the commitment principle in psychology. And that has to do with once you commit to something, it's very hard to leave it because you feel like that's going to make you look bad or some stuff like that, right? So it's important to take that little small step. So what can you do? You have different areas of your life. I mentioned 4, but like the big 3s are finance, health, and relationships, right? Like the main 3, like work life, let's say it's in finance, right? So you have those big 3 areas. Which of those areas is giving you the most pain versus which area you feel you can fix easier? I will say, if it's something that is not too difficult to change, then go for the one that gives you the most satisfaction. If right now you have a gut feeling that you feel bad because you're not socializing or because you went through a breakup, then start socializing again. Like maybe not dating, but maybe you can go out with some friends, with your family. That's definitely going to take your mind off of things. You're going to feel good. Actually, being with people is important for your mental health, and that is probably part of why you're feeling stuck, right? Like you don't feel like, and if you're already going out with people, then try going out with different kinds of people. maybe people who are more positive or have a better outlook on life that can influence you and make you feel better. Maybe try something different, right? And that may take you in a direction to take those small steps that you need to take to start improving how you feel in that area that makes you feel like crap. Now, if maybe it's something too difficult, but there is another area of your life, like let's say that maybe finances are difficult, maybe you can't be promoted at work right now, and you feel like it is your work life that you're feeling a little bit less good about. Well, maybe you don't have advancement opportunities in your company, but what if you start looking elsewhere? What if you start looking into other opportunities at other divisions within the same company? Or you actually talk with a headhunter and you start working on your resume and your interviewing skills. And then, this is interesting, once you take that first step, you're gonna start feeling different. You're gonna feel different. You're gonna be like, oh wow, like I actually took that step, like whoa. And then who knows, maybe you actually get called for other interviews and stuff, and then you'll really feel strong because it's like, whoa, I actually have the power to change my situation, to change how I feel. And that's gonna give you power, and that's gonna give you that momentum. I promise you that if you do that, whether it's in your work life, in your relationships, or your health, maybe it's your health. Maybe you've been feeling like crap for a while now, and maybe your wife or a friend or someone else keeps telling you, you gotta go to the doctor, you gotta go to the doctor, go to the doctor, go check that up. And you have not been doing so, but you've been feeling like crap, and you have this pain here that won't let go. You know what the right thing is, right? Freaking go and get that checkup. To give you a funny story, I remember that I got a small injury while lifting a couple of years ago. And I was taking a few days out, and I was like, I'm gonna keep lifting, but I know that if I keep doing it, I might actually get things worse. Like, I was feeling like crap because I really liked lifting. So then I made the decision, okay, I'll go and get a checkup. I got checked. The doctor told me I had nothing, that it was something that simply needed more time to heal. He told me a few things to do. And when I left that office, I felt like $1,000,000. Why? Because I no longer had that worry. Someone who really knew what they were doing gave me the seal of approval of like, hey man, like, you know. But more importantly than that, I actually took steps, those little steps, to actually improve my situation. And the funny thing about any improvement, no matter how small, is that any improvement is progress. And what do we need to get out of that feeling of being stuck? Progress. That's right. So anything, as small as you can. And how do you sustain it over time? Just keep making small improvements. Maybe you started looking for a headhunter in order to maybe change your job. Well, maybe then you can, if you transition into a different position, or maybe you get something better at the place you are at work, you can also look into, maybe I should go out more and meet more people and date more people, right? Or maybe I should move to a different city because I feel like opportunities here are not as good. Maybe I've been here for quite a few years already, and I feel like it's time for a change. Even that can restart the process of not feeling stuck. In other words, you want to make small improvements that lead to bigger improvements over time, and you'll feel better and better and better. And you can make big shifts like moving to a different city, which will restart everything, but you don't want to have the same habits that you had before. You want to do different things. So at the end of the day, to get out of that feeling of feeling stuck over time in a sustainable way, you want to make small improvements often, right? That's it. That's all you want to do. Because if you go back to your old habits, even if you change to a different city, if you don't like to go out at all or meet new people, and yet that's something that's really bugging you, you're just gonna repeat the same patterns that you had before in the other city, right? So maybe the city itself wasn't the issue. The issue was you actually changing something small to take you where you needed to be. Before we leave this video, I want you to know one last thing, and that has to do with what they call personal state. I thought this was crap before. I thought this was just bullshit, because it has to do with being resourceful in your mind. If you have a problem, instead of being like, oh, why me? Instead, ask yourself, what can I do to fix this? A simple question like that. Immediately, you feel different. And you say, oh, but that's just like a very short term, like different feeling, right? But the whole thing about the changing of the state is, Once you learn how to change it a little bit, and let's say you change it for half an hour, you change how you felt about a problem in your life for half an hour because you thought about it differently. You say, what can I do to fix it? Oh, maybe I can do this, maybe I can do that. And then you go back to your bullshit and you're like, oh, that's not gonna work, I'm screwed. Like, and then you just go back to feeling like crap again. Well, do it again. Like, you change your state. Think about a different question that is different. That's gonna help you actually think constructively, positively. Like, I can actually do this, right? And then you do it and you do it and you do it. Instead of half an hour, now you spend a whole 1 hour feeling better about things. And then you keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. In a 24-hour day, let's say that you're awake 16 hours, then all 16 hours you used to feel like crap. Now you've been improving. Now only 12 hours you feel like crap. And then only 8 hours. Like, for half the day I feel okay, right? And you're doing that along with your small improvements, right? You're changing your mindset a little bit. Before long, those changes in your state, your ability to change emotional states, which is basically how you're thinking about things, which leads to how you feel about things, is gonna make it so that most of the time, instead of feeling like crap, you're gonna feel like $1,000,000 most of the time. I'm not saying all the time, but that's the whole point about changing states, which I thought was bullshit. It's not, right? So you're gonna do, let's say if you do both things, great. But at the end of the day, what you really wanna do is make those small improvements that are going to lead to your mindset to change naturally. If it doesn't, you absolutely have to do that later thing I mentioned, which is think about things differently. Try to think more positively about stuff, because at the end of the day, happiness is not getting stuff. Happiness is, as I learned, a decision. You decide to be happy every single moment, or you decide to be unhappy every single moment. I know if it's not something clinical like depression, again, this is not medical advice. If it's not that or something else that science can actually affect directly, like with medication or any other stuff, because you have maybe a condition, if it's not that, then it's your mindset. It's you allowing yourself to think things negatively, to think there is not a way out, and to not have a resourceful state, to not think in a way that allows you to be positive and construct stuff, right? And get out of that rut, out of that feeling of being stuck that you have. And that's what I'm gonna leave you with. If you find this helpful, comment below, smash that like button, and subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know whenever a new video comes out. Bye bye.